Episode 1. The Leaving. There's a kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it empties it. That was the first thing I noticed when I walked in that day. Not the suitcase missing from the hallway closet, not the half-packed drawer I'd ignored that morning. It was the silence. It hit me in the chest like a punch I never saw coming. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. I stood there, keys still in hand, staring at nothing in particular. The kitchen smelled like old coffee. The lamp in the corner hummed softly, a sound I used to find comforting. That day it sounded like mockery. I called her name once, then again, quieter, no answer. I walked through the house like I'd never seen it before, like I was trespassing in my own life. Our bed was still made, but her pillow was gone. The closet, half empty, no shoes, no coats, no dresses hanging crooked on plastic hangers. I opened her dresser drawer and found it bare, except for a folded note. I wish I could say it said something dramatic, a confession, a plea, a reason. But there was no note, just nothing. Her wedding ring sat on the counter next to the sink, placed so carefully it looked surgical. Cold metal. End of a sentence. I must have stood there for 20 minutes, hand on the countertop, eyes locked on that ring. I waited for the flood to come. Rage, panic, grief, anything. But all I felt was stillness. The kind of stillness that creeps into your bones and makes you feel like maybe time decided to leave with her. I don't remember packing. I remember throwing a bag on the bed, yanking drawers open, grabbing whatever was in reach. T-shirts, a pair of jeans, toothbrush, the flannel jacket my dad gave me before he died. I stepped over the photo frame that fell off the dresser, face down on the carpet. I didn't pick it up. By the time the sun was down, I was already out of the city. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to go. The further I drove, the less my life felt real. Mile after mile, the highway stretched like scars across unfamiliar land. The radio played songs I didn't recognize. I let them wash over me like static. I didn't cry, not yet. Crying would have meant accepting it, and I wasn't ready to believe she was really gone. Not until I reached the Texas border. That's where the world changed. Would you like me to continue with episode 2? Welcome to Nowhere in the same detailed, introspective style, even longer and deeper. I can continue the story piece by piece, making each episode feel like a full chapter of a novel. Episode 2. Welcome to Nowhere from the Journal of Ethan Walker. They say if you drive far enough, you leave your past behind. Turns out that's a lie. You don't outrun memories. You just drag them behind you like cans tied to the back of a car on a wedding day. Rattling. Constant. Loudest when the road gets quiet. After 2 days on the road, I ended up somewhere south of nowhere. No name on the map, just a crooked sign that said, "Welcome. Population. Who cares?" Or maybe that was just how I read it. I was running on fumes, both truck and soul. I hadn't eaten a real meal in a day. My back ached from sleeping in parking lots. My mind itched with questions I didn't have the courage to ask myself. That's when I saw it. A diner, paint peeling off the wood. Neon open sign flickering like it was dying. A couple of old pickups in the gravel lot. And beyond that, nothing. Just dust, heat, and silence stretching out to the horizon like an old scar. I pulled in, parked, turned off the engine, and just sat. Hands on the wheel, forehead pressed to the leather. Breathing like each inhale might decide if I got to stay on this side of sanity. When I finally stepped out, the air hit me like a slap. hot and dry, thick with the smell of sun-baked dirt and something like freedom. Inside the diner, it was quiet, not empty, just still. A ceiling fan ticked above like a slow metronome, the kind of place where people don't bother pretending they're in a rush. A woman behind the counter looked up at me, maybe late 50s, gray braid down her back, deep lines in her face, but not unkind. Her name tag said May. "You look like hell," she said without blinking. "Coffee?" I nodded. That was the first wordless agreement I'd had in days. She poured it black and strong, handed it over, and walked away. No questions, no small talk. Just the exact amount of kindness I could handle. I sat in the back booth, cracked vinyl, sticky table. I stared out the window at the endless nothing outside and realized, for the first time since she left, I didn't want to keep driving. That night, I found a room above an old garage behind a house with a rusting windmill. I knocked on the door. A woman answered, tall, lean, maybe 70, wearing gardening gloves and holding pruning shears. She looked me up and down like she could see right through me. "Looking for a room?" she asked, not unkindly. "If you've got one," I said. "50 a week, cash only. No drugs, no nonsense. Don't touch my roses." "I don't do much touching these days," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to be charming?" "No, ma'am, just tired." She handed me a key. "Second floor. Sheets are clean. Don't slam the door." I didn't even ask her name. She didn't ask mine. Later, I'd learned she was Ruth, and she'd lost more than I had. But that's another story. The room was small, one bed, one fan, one crooked mirror on the wall. But it was enough. I collapsed onto the mattress and stared at the ceiling like it might offer me answers. None came. The next few days blurred together. I went to the diner each morning. May learned my name, started calling me stranger, in that way some women say darling, soft, automatic, like she didn't expect it to last. I walked the town, such as it was, 4 streets, one church, a gas station that doubled as a post office, a feed store that smelled like old grain and sweat. No one looked at me too long. No one cared who I was. That was the best part. People waved, said mornin', and kept moving. It wasn't unkind, just how they lived. You mind your business. You carry your burdens. You survive the best you can. It was the first time I'd been given the space to be invisible, and invisibility, I learned, is a kind of healing. One night, I sat outside my room on the old wooden steps, a beer in my hand. Boots kicked off beside me. The sky above was endless, wider than I'd ever seen back home. You could see every star. The Milky Way stretched across the darkness like spilled sugar. I thought about her, not in the way that made my chest cave in, more like an echo, distant, familiar, fading. I didn't know what I was doing in that town. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in weeks, I wasn't afraid of the quiet. I let it settle in my bones. Episode 3, The Ranch Job. I heard about the job from May. "You need something to do with those hands, besides wrap them around my coffee cups," she said one morning, slapping a slip of paper next to my scrambled eggs. "Ray over at Turner Ranch needs help. Paid by the day. You interested?" I nodded. That's all she needed. Ray Turner was a man of few words and even fewer smiles. He was already barking orders when I showed up. Tall, lean, sun-worn, with boots that looked older than me. He handed me a pair of gloves and pointed at a busted fence line. "Start there." That was it. No introductions, no questions. The work was rough. Digging, hammering, lifting hay bales, clearing brush, long hours under the brutal sun. My back screamed, my hands blistered, but every ache felt earned, real, tangible. Unlike the hurt I carried inside, there's something about sweat and dirt that simplifies things. When you're focused on holding a post steady or wrestling a calf to tag its ear, there's no room for grief, no space for wondering what you did wrong or where she went or why she stopped loving you. The ranch dogs took to me before the people did. A blue heeler named Buck would follow me around like I was something worth watching. We didn't speak much, but that dog saw me. Ray didn't offer praise, but he didn't fire me either. After 3 days, he handed me a check and grunted, "See you Monday." In ranch speak, that was basically a handshake and a thank you card. Each night, I came home covered in dust and sweat. Ruth would glance up from her garden as I walked past. Sometimes she'd nod. Once, she left a bottle of homemade iced tea on my porch. That was the most affection she ever showed me. It meant more than words. My body hurt, but my mind quieted. That job gave my days a shape, my pain a rhythm. And in the middle of it all, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Useful, alive. Under the Wide Sky, Episode 4, Clara. You can go a long time without touching another soul. I'm not talking about handshakes or passing someone in a grocery aisle. I mean real touch. Looking someone in the eyes and feeling for one moment like they see all the wreckage and don't flinch. Clara didn't sneak up on me. She didn't come in like some whirlwind to shake my world loose. She arrived quietly like everything good in my life ever did. I first saw her at the feed store. She was arguing with the clerk about the price of barbed wire. Her voice was calm but unmovable, a woman who knew exactly what things were worth. She had a scar on her chin, a sun-worn ball cap pulled low over her brow, and a no-nonsense presence that said she didn't have time for anyone's crap. I liked her instantly, not in a romantic way, not yet. Just, she reminded me of solid ground. A few days later, I ran into her again at the diner. She sat 2 stools down, sipped coffee like it was fuel, and gave a single nod when our eyes met. That was all, but it lingered. Turns out she worked a ranch across the county road from the one I was on, owned by her uncle, but mostly run by her. Said she grew up between horses and heartbreak and figured she'd keep company with the one that bit less. We started talking over time, briefly at first, a word here, a comment there, long silences between. And yet, there was comfort in it, like neither of us needed to fill the air with noise. We'd sit out near the fencing lines, watching dusk roll in like an old dog settling in for sleep. One afternoon, after a hard day's work fixing fence posts, she offered me a cold beer. Said I'd earned it, though I'd barely kept up with her all morning. "You ever gonna tell me what brought you out here?" she asked, eyes still on the hills. "Maybe," I said, "if I figure it out myself." She nodded, satisfied with that. No prying, no pity, just space. Clara was made of something old, not in age but in spirit. She was carved from weather and grit, stitched together with stubbornness and kindness in equal measure. She didn't smile often, but when she did, it landed like sunshine after a long storm. One evening, after the sun had dipped low and the cattle had all settled, she saddled 2 horses and tossed me the reins of one. "Ride with me," she said. So I did. We rode through golden light, past mesquite trees and dry creeks, toward nowhere in particular. The silence between us stretched comfortably, like a blanket worn soft by use. The sky turned to fire, then to lavender, then to the deep navy of night. When we stopped, she looked over at me and said, "You're not running anymore. You just haven't figured out how to stop." It hit me like a slow punch to the chest. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. She already knew. We rode back without speaking. That night I sat on the porch of my room, looking out across the dark fields, and thought about the strange comfort of being seen, not judged, not fixed, just seen. And for the first time, I let myself wonder if maybe I wasn't as broken as I thought. Maybe I was just changing, and maybe Clara was the first person to notice. Some men are good at leaving. They pack light, sleep facing the door, always know where their boots are. I used to think I was one of them, that if you kept your heart unstitched, you'd never have to feel it tear. But life has a way of pulling threads even when you think you're wrapped tight. Clara didn't ask for much. That's what made her dangerous. She didn't chase or charm or try to draw out the past. She just kept showing up, in the dust, in the dusk, in the steady rhythm of days. We worked side by side, drove fence posts, herded cattle, ate sandwiches under the same stretch of sunburned sky. And little by little, my walls didn't so much fall as dissolve. One night after a long day, we sat in the bed of her truck outside the diner, our boots resting on the edge, a radio crackling soft country in the background. I remember the way she looked in the twilight, worn ball cap, sun-touched cheeks, that quiet strength like gravity. "I keep thinking I should be somewhere else," I told her. She didn't look at me, just sipped her soda. "You are somewhere else." I laughed hollow. "That's the problem." "You ever ask yourself why you're still here?" she said. "In this town, on that ranch?" I didn't answer, but I did ask myself. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking less about what I left behind and more about what I was building. Routine became ritual, the smell of hay, the ache in my shoulders, the sound of Clara humming off-key while oiling saddles. One afternoon, we got caught in a summer storm while out checking cattle. Rain came hard and sudden. We took shelter in an old barn, laughing like kids. My shirt clung to me like regret, hair dripping in my eyes. Clara looked at me and smiled, a full one this time, no guard up. "You're not who you were," she said. "And who am I?" I asked. She leaned against a post, arms crossed. "Someone who stopped looking backward." I kissed her that night. It wasn't fireworks or violins. It was quiet, slow, earned. And in that kiss, I felt a strange piece of permission to stay, to hope, to let go. From then on, it was different. Not perfect, not easy, but rooted. We talked more. I told her about my wife, not all at once, but enough. She listened without flinching, without fixing. "You loved her," Clara said. "Doesn't mean you can't love again." Some truths sound simple until you hear them out loud. I didn't know what future meant. Not yet. But I stopped counting the miles behind me, stopped rehearsing excuses to leave. I started fixing things that didn't need fixing, mended a gate that worked fine, repainted the fence just to see it shine, cooked Clara breakfast one morning, eggs too runny, bacon too crisp. She ate it anyway, said it was the best damn meal she'd had in weeks. That was the morning I realized I didn't just want to be here. I wanted to belong here. And that was new. That was everything.